searching for a way of building, you say. I mean, what did you mean by that?
We're looking at this idea of, Geoffrey has studied architecture at a late age, at age 34, comes back at the age of 38 to Sri Lanka as an architect, filled with the innovation and the possibilities that were unlocked by the use of glass, the use of reinforced steel, that the industrial age had sort of unlocked across the world.
Right.
But then by the 60s and certainly by the 70s, Sri Lanka's economy is closing and there isn't that availability of all these new materials. And they had to find a way to keep that ethos of building with what was available, and that's really what we're looking at against the climate.
Yes, so I think you've also chosen quite well in that case, because here we see the St. Thomas's College building, which I think I would say is a classic example of what he would have learned at the AA.
1958.
1958. Your argument is whether it should be Mies van der Rohe or Le Corbusier or whatever. All of that argument of modernist architecture happens. And here's a classic set of photographs of the St. Thomas's College as it was originally built, with its brise soleil, all the sort of
tropes.
Textbook tropes of what a tropical modern building was supposed to be. And the drawings actually show it rather beautifully as well. The concrete frame structure with the screens that make up the brise soleil and all of that. But very, very soon, and he discovers...
the building is next to the sea.
And it's right next to the sea. It starts leaking. It doesn't...
It's corroding.
And of course, the one great thing, again, my business partner Murad talks about it, I think in one of his conversations, that he just loved St. Thomas's because there were so many rain days, because you couldn't use the classrooms in the rain. And very, very quickly, Geoffrey and his colleagues realized that, and I think they begin for the first time in the school you went to,
yes,
Simon Block.
Simon Block at Ladies College.
You have a kind of idea, if we bring something that is local, a little, what you call a piazza in Sinhalese.
How do you bring
to
ventilation?
How can you bring ventilation while keeping the rain out?
Yes.
And I think you begin to see this as a whole direction of examination.
Absolutely.
Right through that period. How do we bring the wind in and how do we keep the rain out? And in these series of models, I think, Shayari, you've chosen to try and explore that. And this one shows Simon Block, where you just see the original idea of the simple cantilever, but with a little piazza or a little bit of roof that you have actually placed to stop the rain from getting in.
Yes.
But what's lovely is also the way he uses those little cantilevers so that kids can sit there, keep their school bags
there.
all of that, and that's beautifully. So it's not just form and function, it's form which is truly functional. Kids can keep their bags, they can sit there, they can stand there, look over, shout at their friends, all of that happening here. And that, of course, he refines even more in a project out there, St. Bridget's, where he then lifts the roof up to take more
with the monitor
of the monitor roof, where he lifts up the roof so that the hot air can move out of the upper level. And it's still the cantilever, still this idea that children have their own world at a certain level, and the whole building feels like it's you're studying on the retreat. We should point out
that this is an earlier drawing, and this is part of what the archive has, right? Then the next version, this bit actually pops out further so the hot air can escape.
Exactly, exactly.
But I think also interesting with this project is his close consideration of who's going to use it. So he describes this as a structure of sort of nesting under a tree that children would feel comfortable in, and he uses the words, the structure was apparent to any visually apparent to any intelligent 4-year-old.
Of course, and you can see that, and this beautiful drawing by Lucky again, I think, or was it a copy
I'm not
later?
sure if it's
These are the things that, you know, what's intriguing about this archive, because some drawings we know who drew it, some drawings we know is a copy of a copy of a copy, and I think it's all very exciting. It's all very exciting to try and find out what's going on. And I'd like to show this one, because this is a series of lovely old photographs, I think probably by Geoffrey, using his old Leica M3, and they show the building as soon as it was opened, with these beautiful drawings by Barbara Sanzoni. unfortunately not there anymore. I mean, it's sort of exposed concrete with these colorful drawings on it.
But you see how the openings are all
At the level of children, right?
For a toddler.
Indeed. And then of course this experimentation with the building goes on, and here at the Steel Corporation offices, he begins to make not just a cantilever but something that goes beyond the cantilever, which is supported by these buttresses or these angled arms that keep shifting it out. So if you look at the section, and again the model shows that as well, the idea that you're supporting the roof and then the cantilever is shifted out onto the roof. So the angle of the rain never really reaches any of the spaces. So this obsession with how can I get ventilation while still
and built for this climate.
And of course built for the climate. You wanted the breezes to blow through.
And you want the rain out.
And you want the rain out. And that's really what's going on. And then finally, at the Bentota Beach Hotel, I think he and Dr. Pulogasundaram really go to another level. So recently and I think I was very excited when I was talking to you about it, when we discovered that in fact the idea of this was never a cantilever at all. But again, the model shows that more clearly, but it was this idea that there were two columns that went all the way up, and there was a big concrete roof truss from which the balconies and the corridors were suspended. Now for 1968, they were hung, they were just hung from above. And I think that was an extraordinary idea, even for the 1960s. I mean, people like Luigi Nervi in Italy were thinking about these ideas of hung concrete structures.
Yeah.
And what's wonderful about this was, it wasn't trying to be, look, this is magic. It was just trying to allow the architect to express an idea of a place and have these very delicate sort of balconies, but still allowing for the rain to come down and people to use it.
And this, the brainchild was, I mean, Dr. Pulogasundaram, his partner who was a structural engineer, and you can see his shadow here because he is the structure behind
So it's
this.
a very, very interesting photograph then. So
It's
he's
his
the structure
photograph.
behind that, him standing, taking that picture. And of course this idea of bioclimatic buildings, which is what this is really about, this examination is about, is I think taken to a different level when we come to this particular building, which is the Mahaveli building. Originally started as the State Mortgage Bank in Colombo. And this particular drawing shows the way Bawa and his associates worked on how the entire building, all 10 stories of it, would be naturally ventilated and not have air conditioning. Now usually tall buildings were supposed to have air conditioning and in the tropics. But here is an attempt to create a bioclimatically appropriate building for the tropics. And it must have been the first of its kind.
And it was definitely influential.
It was terribly influential. I remember Ken Yang,
Yes.
the famous Malaysian architect, talking about this as perhaps the first bioclimatically designed building in the tropics.
I love also the exploration, the effort that these drawings show. So in this plan, which was a previous plan, you can see these little scallops, which are the windows, and we're trying to figure out
which
how
was
many
supposed to
windows are
open,
needed.
yes.
And then
Exactly.
in this one, you can see, you can feel that air
The air
moving
going
through.
So in a way, the drawing becomes an important way of expressing what you're thinking.
Exactly. And
Not
trying
just to
figure
show other
out.
people, but you're trying to figure out what is this really, what's going on,
Yeah.
right? And that's what's really wonderful about it.